Now let's come towards the next point, that is how the pH is maintained in the gastric region. Very simple. We know here the stomach, this portion of the stomach is named as fundus. This is the body and this is the antrum. Now for the pH maintenance, remember these cells: G cell, D cell, P cell. Now these are the specific cells responsible to maintain pH. How? Like, very simple. If the pH in the stomach increases, we know we have 7 as a neutral. If it is increasing upward, moving upward towards 14, this is called an increase in the pH. And if it is decreasing downward towards 1, this is known as decrease in the pH. Okay? So if the pH is increasing, so we call it as the pH is becoming alkaline, and that is not sufficient, not good for the gastric region, for the stomach. What will happen? These G cells are stimulated, which are present in the antrum. These G cells will release gastrin. This gastrin is responsible to release enterochromaffin-like cells. G cells will be released, stimulated, sorry. Increasing pH will stimulate the G cells. Now these G cells are responsible to release gastrin. That gastrin is then responsible to stimulate enterochromaffin-like cells. Then those cells are responsible to release histamine, and then those histamines are responsible to stimulate parietal cells. And we know about the parietal cells, they are responsible to release HCl. So like this, increased in pH stimulated G cells which released gastrin. Then they stimulated enterochromaffin-like cells, ECL, which released histamine, which was then further responsible to stimulate parietal cells. At the end, HCl was released by the parietal cells. So if the HCl is released here, what will happen to the pH? pH will move down. So now, in order to maintain a specific level, here we get the D cells. If the pH is becoming down, a point will come where D cells will be stimulated. Then those D cells, when they are stimulated, they are responsible to release somatostatins. Now those somatostatins are responsible to inhibit G cells, ECL, and parietal cells. G cells, ECL, and parietal cells. These three cells will be inhibited. So if these are inhibited, what will happen? From the G cells, there won't be any release of gastrin. From the ECL, there won't be the release of histamine. From the P cells, there won't be the release of the HCl. So in short, what will happen? The pH will not drop anymore. It will be maintained up to a certain limit. So this is how pH is maintained, or one can say the homeostasis of the pH in the stomach by P cells, G cells, ECL, and D cells. That's how. Okay, hope you got. Next.